we are. We're back.
Okay.
It's kind of sunny here. I'm going to come around. Sorry, you guys. We lost you. I'm going to go right here in the shade.
Okay.
Putting the phone down. Okay. There we are. All right. We came out.
Trees.
That's right. It's a little bit better, a little bit brighter too. And we had a little bit of connectivity issues. So I can see you guys are jumping right back on. So we're going to...
Yeah, convention centers are not great for using your own devices.
Notorious. For that. So we see you guys again.
Yeah. We're going to talk about this little puppy, right? The color study.
Yeah, because you know what, Janice? You know what just launched?
Yeah, we're back. We're back, Gita and Gwynnie.
Yes,
and
we're back.
Janice and Ruth and...
We're back.
Yeah.
But we wanted to share with you because... Janice and I...
Janice King
There's
is there.
Janice K. Yay! I saw my mom. Tammy Craven.
And Kathy.
Yes, it's great to have everybody. We have a new project launching today from an old favorite. We launched...
A new sample.
A new sample from our color study.
Right.
It's one that we made made exclusively for Bead and Button for our class here.
Right.
And it's the color study called Meadowland.
Meadowland, yeah. Mm-hmm. I love this one.
It is. Now, you made both of these. We have this garden path, Janice, right, that we're teaching tomorrow, both of these. Mm-hmm. And these were your brain children.
Yeah, it came... I know we're throwing all these up in front of you guys, but this was the original one, where I use these over here, these little checks, CHEXX beads, which are, I think, as far as I know, only the beadsmith ever had made.
Those little flat, they're really
flat, cute. 2-hole beads. So instead of being like the Tyla going through the hole this way, here's the bead this way, and it goes down the center rather than this way. So
you see the side of the bead.
You see the
when
side
it's
of it, and it's not here. Can you see that? Everyone out there, there's this gray, and it's just never. Here we go. There it is. I think. Anyway,
and you guys can see that really great if you go on to our color study. I'm going to actually turn this around here real quick so you guys can see it. Why don't you go ahead and lay out our two new samples so you can talk about them a little bit, okay? But you can see, you guys, here I've got the color study pulled up on our screen on our website here. And so our brand new one right here is Meadowland. That's this new one. And Janice is laying it out. But this is one of the samples we are teaching tomorrow at our color study class. And then if we go back to our projects here, I'll go and you can see the other one that we're doing is the other one that we did for this class called Garden Path, which is really beautiful. And so you can see both of those guys. And right now, for Bead and Button, during the Bead and Button, we thought we'd have a little special going on. So if you haven't opened up your newsletter yet today, please do so. We're taking 25% off every bead and every button
for Bead and Button.
For Bead and Button. So the coupon code is BB25. That's B as in boy, 25. You put that in your coupon code box and we knock off 25% of every bead and every button. So Janice, I'm going to move the camera just a little bit. And
there's almost not a table big enough for my wraps anymore. I'm going 7, and it's pretty, it gets to be too much. After 7, when you get to 8, 9, and 10, it's just too many wraps.
It's crazy. And my mom was asking too about more thoughts about the competition. And I'm going to actually do a blog post and stuff about that. And we might pop in to do just a little more Facebook living. But we'll focus on this for Free Tip Friday. And I'll share some more thoughts about the competition. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us. So JP, this is the garden. I keep wanting to call it Garden Gate, but it's Garden Path.
This one was Garden Path.
Now, how many wraps is this?
This is 7.
7 wraps.
Yeah.
Right? It's really, really cool.
And I didn't want to stop.
No. And that's why, where did you start with this?
This
here?
This project starts with the button.
Right.
And then it starts with just, well, I'll go over here. If you can see that, I start with some macrame, and I used KO, and I used the infinity stitch. This is a great project to do the infinity stitch. And we've done it a couple of times on Facebook. So if you go to the project, you'll see the link at the top on the page for the sample, and also download episode notes. And we go through it, you know, step by step.
Yeah. What I love also, Janice, is you introduced, I remember when you sent the sample over, when we looked at the sample, you kind of introduced some different things that I guess we don't ladder with all the time, and that's especially this bugle bead.
The bugle bead, and also this first section, I decided I wanted to just use it sort of as a warm-up, where I didn't decide to do any kind of a pattern. I just wanted to try the beads.
Yeah.
How do the little shadows look next to the 11/0? How many bugles will make up the same depth as 2 or 3 shadows, or the checkmates tiles? I just wanted to like let loose with, well, how does a half tile, how big does the laddering get if I add an 11/0 on each side? So it was really more my sketchbook. This first section was like a sketchbook. And then as I went along, I got tighter with my design, and then I went further with a certain kind of patterning. But I love that little bit, and then to kind of tie it together.
Yes, as we meander down the path.
When I finished, I did more of that at the end. If you see,
it's right here.
I'll open this up. I did more of it at the end
to kind of echo.
At the end, I got very.
It was much tighter. Patterny.
The beginning is just sort of loosey sketchbook, kind of charcoal pencil, and then the rest of it is very complete.
What I adore about this one too,
I'm glad you
is I do. Is look at the use of these half tiles, you guys.
I love the half tile.
It's like this. My mom is saying she loves the first section. It echoes the feeling of a scrappy quilt.
It does.
You know?
Yes.
And I think that's kind of the cool. I'm going to pull back a little bit so we can kind of see this in its entirety. You know, I think that's the beauty of a wrap bracelet like this, is that you have, it's kind of like 5 bracelets that you're making in one long piece. So they just have to speak to each other in some way. They don't have to be so regimented.
No, not at all. Not at all. And if we go to Meadowland, I again mirrored some of that, although it's not nearly as
loose.
But I did some of that at the beginning, where I said, "Oh, let me try that."
I'm going to hold this up a little bit. I think you guys will be able to see a little bit better.
Let me, try with the bugles, because I already knew that so many would fit into the width, like the half tile.
These checkmates tiles as well. I love the contrast between the half tile, which is a little bit thinner, has a little more of almost like a delica bead feel, versus kind of the chunkiness and the rounded kind of the thickness of these checkmates tiles. Yeah, really looks good.
And I want to stress that when you're picking a palette, especially with something like this, because Kate, you were talking about the color story, and one wrap doesn't have to mirror the next wrap, is that if you put your beads out that you want to use together, and you take some of color A and you bring color A into maybe a second or the third wrap, you take color B and you bring that maybe into the 5th and the 6th wrap, and maybe the 2nd, that it all talks to one another.
Right, like starts nature. To make sense.
You don't go with nature, oh, that green bush doesn't go with that green tree. They all work together if they're blended naturally. And so you can put any colors together, really. That's what I want everyone to take away.
And we used the 1.0 leather here.
Yes.
And Janice, I know when we were talking a little bit about when you were making this piece, we sell our leather cords in 4-yard increments.
Yes.
So I'm just going to put you on the spot here for a minute. There you are. Look, it looks like we're on vacation. It looks great. So Jackie was asking, you do your metalsmith pins. Jackie was asking, how long did you determine, or how did you determine how long those cords should be?
I do it the same way, Jackie, every single time. I double it over, I put my button somewhere in the middle, and I wrap it around my hand, and I go, okay, I want it, you know, I make it longer. I mean, I do have the luxury, because I have access to leather, that I could waste some. But what I usually do is I double it over, wrap it around my wrist, and then that gives me an idea of, I want 3 wraps or 5 wraps. And something like this, I don't want to be limited.
No.
So my wrist is 7 inches. I want to do, you know, 7 wraps. I multiply that times 7, and then I have to double it, so that I end up using about 3 yards.
Yeah, about.
When I'm done. Yeah.
So yeah, it works. I think that those, like when I did my Art Deco color study, I had no idea how long we wanted it to be. So I just doubled over the whole 4 yards. And I just kept going and going and going. And then at the ends, I had a good amount of leather that I could then use in a tassel, or could use in some earrings, stuff like that.
I don't throw it out.
Yeah. No, so it can be used.
I don't ever throw it out. So
I'm going to turn us around, because it's almost time, you guys,
to go back to teaching.
For us to go back to teaching.
And then we want to tell everyone about popping in at like 4:30ish.
Yeah, we have a real treat. Sorry, it looks like I need on this side to kind of clean my screen, but I'll do that beforehand.
Okay.
We have such a... Why don't you tell us a little bit? We're going to do a broadcast. It's going to be 4:30 p.m.
But just a
Central
very
Time.
Special,
Yeah, it's a short little broadcast, but it'll be 2:30 Pacific and then 5:30 Eastern. But tell them a little bit about what we're going to do.
So we met a lovely woman who's also in our bead community, Michelle, and she is starting her own jewelry company.
Yes.
And makes extraordinary pieces. And I thought it would be fun to bring her, introduce her into the community, and talk a bit about what it's like to start your own jewelry company. What are some of the challenges?
Yeah, what she's thinking about.
What you and I would think about in terms of marketing new products. And so it's more like a, you know, your business kind of bead shop, but that's what we're going to do this afternoon. And
it'll be really fun too. We had dinner with Michelle last night. We talked over a little bit about kind of her thought process about her business and stuff. So I think it'll be really compelling.
I mean, she's had her jewelry on the cover of Bead and Button.
Yeah, she's been on the cover of Bead and Button.
She's
great.
But she's in the beginning stages of going from, I'm just, you know, taking care of my kids, to wanting to really do this jewelry company.
Yeah, and so
we thought it would be fun
to share.
And then maybe track her in a year and see how she's doing.
Yeah, it'd be really fun. And I think that, because I think she's in a lot of the place in her jewelry life where I think probably a lot of you guys are too. So it's always fun to share and get some different perspective.
Right. So we'll be doing that this afternoon in about
4:30.
3 hours or something.
Yeah, so about 4:30 Central.
This time zone thing.
I know, time zones are crazy. 4:30 Central, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern.
Yes.
That'll do it. Okay. All right, my darlings, we've got to get back to class because they can't light those torches unless I'm there. So I'm going to go back to firing it up. Janice and I will be back to see you guys in a little bit.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Look, it's Janice. Aren't you stoked? She's here. We're together. All right. Talk to you guys soon.